White House Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is in Israel right now for talks with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem. Witkoff is also meeting with Israeli leaders to discuss ways to increase aid and alleviate the growing starvation crisis in Gaza. Bedor Hassan is a researcher on Israel and Palestine with the human rights group Amnesty International. She's joining us now from Ramallah on the West Bank. Bedor, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for the important work that you're doing. Let's talk about Gaza's health ministry. It's now reporting more than 60 people were killed in northern Gaza after Israeli forces opened fire near an aid site. What are you hearing from people on the ground in Gaza right now? How bad is this humanitarian crisis unfolding?
We have been speaking with people in Gaza since the 7th of October 2023. And Wolf, what we can hear is absolute desperation and pain from the voice of every single person we are speaking to. We have spoken to a woman who is breastfeeding. She does not have milk. She does not even have food to feed herself, let alone her child. We are hearing from people who have to walk for hours just to reach one of the aid sites, risking everything, including being shot. We are talking with people who describe to us how they have not eaten bread for days upon days, who have not even tasted one tomato for months. We are talking to people who have lost their entire families. We're talking about multi-generational families, fathers, children, grandchildren, and they're left just scouring for something to eat from the rubbish. And this is what we are also noticing, and that this is not changing, despite the cosmetic changes that Israel has pledged under some pressure from a world trying to appease its conscience by accepting some cosmetic changes. But the reality on the ground remains grim, because we are talking about a clear and calculated effort to use starvation as a method of warfare.
The international pressure, as you know, Bedor, is growing on Israel to try to alleviate this hunger crisis in Gaza. Both Portugal and Canada are now joining France and Britain in announcing plans to recognize formally a Palestinian state in September when the United Nations General Assembly convenes. Do you believe this will actually motivate Israel to do more to help the people in Gaza?
Well, if you may allow me, this is not a hunger crisis. This is the result of 20 months of relentless bombardment, decimation of Gaza's entire health sector, infliction of bodily and mental harm on Palestinian women, men, and children. And this is not simply a byproduct of the war. This is an intended, foreseen, and foreseeable result of Israel's military onslaught on Gaza that has resulted in what we are seeing. Because in addition, bringing more food in, which is what Israel claims to have done, will not solve these problems. It's not about number of trucks being allowed and increasing that. It's about allowing safe access, allowing safe distribution, allowing the healthcare sector in Gaza to rebuild itself. Because famine and starvation is not one moment. It's a process. It doesn't end once you let more trucks in. It needs recovery. It needs working with especially with the children. It needs providing them with nutrition. It needs rebuilding the healthcare sector. It needs treating the mental scars that arise from that. Now, all that Israel has done is absolutely not enough, because we're seeing that the genocide continues in Gaza, the killings continue, the pressure, yes, we welcome all kinds of pressure, especially the pressure on Israel to lift its restrictions on aid, but this is not enough. Food and medicine and
Go ahead.
This cannot be used as bargaining chips, Wolf. Food and medicine and medical supplies can never, ever be allowed to be used as bargaining chips.
We know that Amnesty International unequivocally condemned the October 7th Hamas terror attack that started this current war, and your group is also now accusing Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. Here's what Amnesty reported on July 3rd, and I'm quoting now. Israel has continued to use starvation of civilians as a weapon of war against Palestinians in the occupied Gaza Strip, and to deliberately impose conditions of life calculated to bring about their physical destruction as part of its ongoing genocide. As you know, genocide and starving civilians as a weapon of war, Israel has flatly denied those accusations. What does your group base your conclusion on?
I'll give you one example, Wolf, because especially when we talk about restrictions on aid, you have to see them in the broader context, because not only is Israel imposing severe, sweeping, arbitrary restrictions on the entry of medical supplies, of aid, of food into Gaza, it has also systematically destroyed life-sustaining infrastructure. So the person who is denied food also cannot go work their land because their agricultural lands have been destroyed by Israel. Gaza's most fertile agricultural land has been razed by Israel systematically. So they cannot get the vegetables they need, they cannot get their food, they cannot get the food supplies from anywhere. So there is a pattern of destroying the group. And in addition to this pattern, there are the statements by Israeli officials since the 7th of October denying that there are civilians in Gaza, equating all civilians with Hamas, calling for the total flattening of the Gaza Strip, saying that there are describing Palestinians as human animals, calling for a total siege. This is as new as the 2nd of March, when Israeli officials called for an entire siege. For 77 days, Wolf, Israel imposed a total siege on the Gaza Strip. Not even insulin was allowed in. For sure, insulin cannot be diverted by Hamas, can it? And this continues now as I speak to you, Wolf. There are those desperate, starved civilians pushed to the brink, trying to access some aid, only to be shot by the Israeli military, the same Israeli military that has claimed to put safe zones for people to seek aid, only for this so-called safe spaces to be turned into death traps for Palestinian civilians.
But very quickly, does Amnesty International still condemn Hamas?
Amnesty International condemns any violations of international law, regardless of who commits it, including the taking of hostages, a civilian as hostages, including Hamas violations against Palestinians in Gaza, including the arbitrary detentions carried out by Israel. And I just would like to finish, Wolf, by one last word, because I feel like it's our responsibility to bring the voices of Palestinians in Gaza. So many people keep asking us why. Why has my entire family been killed? Why does Israel starve us and then ask us to go to collect aid from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation only to shoot us? And this question, why, to me, it echoes the answer that Primo Levi, a Jewish Italian Holocaust survivor, he asked his guard at Auschwitz, why, warum? And the guard told him, there is no why here. In genocide, there is no why. In Gaza at the moment, there is no why. There is only this clear, incontestable fact that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, and we cannot allow this to continue happening. We have to take a stance. Either we are against genocide, or we continue to allow Israel to violate international law and to dehumanize and destroy Palestinian civilians.
Bedor Hassan from Amnesty International, thanks very much for joining us.